Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie's winery war has taken another sharp turn, and this time, the headline looks like a win for Brad Pitt. But the real story is much more complicated than one side celebrating and the other losing. This is not a final judgment. This is not the end of the Château Miraval battle. What just happened is a legal boost that gives Pitt's team more power to dig into the sale that changed everything. And almost immediately, Angelina Jolie's side made it clear that she is not backing down. Her message is simple. This fight is heading toward trial, and she believes she can defeat the case there. At the center of this battle is Château Miraval, the French winery Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie once owned together. For years, Miraval was more than just a luxury estate. It was part of their public image, part of their marriage, and eventually part of their divorce fallout. It was connected to romance, family, business, and celebrity glamour. But after the relationship collapsed, that same property became one of the most bitter legal battlefields in Hollywood. The dispute exploded after Jolie sold her stake in the winery to a company connected to the Stoli Group. Pitt's side claims Jolie had no right to make that sale without his consent because, according to him, they had an understanding that neither would sell their share without approval from the other. Jolie's side has pushed back against that framing and argues that the case is not as simple as Pitt's side wants the public to believe. Now, Pitt has received a meaningful courtroom advantage. A California court granted his request to compel depositions from people connected to the Stoli side of the transaction. That matters because Pitt's legal team wants to question individuals who may know how the deal was arranged, who was involved, what discussions happened, and whether the buyer understood that Pitt objected to the sale. In plain language, Pitt's side is trying to build a clearer timeline. They want testimony, documents, and answers from the people who became involved after Jolie sold her stake. For Pitt, this is important because his case depends more than emotion. He cannot simply say he was angry about the sale. His team has to show why the sale mattered legally, not just personally. That is why depositions are so valuable. A deposition can force people connected to the transaction to answer questions under oath. It can reveal who knew what, when they knew it, and how the deal was shaped before Jolie's stake changed hands. This is why Pitt's camp is presenting the ruling as another step toward transparency. From their perspective, the more the court allows them to question Stoli-linked figures, the stronger their ability becomes to challenge the sale. Pitt's side appears to believe the transaction was not just a clean business move. They believe it placed him into business with a partner he never agreed to work with and damaged the control he says he was supposed to have over Miraval. But Jolie's response is what keeps the story explosive. Her side is not treating this as a major defeat. Her attorney has argued that these rulings don't decide the actual merits of the case. In other words, Jolie's team is saying, yes, Pitt may have won this procedural round, but that doesn't prove he's right. That distinction is very important. Discovery wins can shape a case, but they don't automatically decide who wins at trial. And that's where Jolie's message becomes aggressive. Her side is openly looking toward trial and saying she expects to defeat the case there. That tells us two things. First, Jolie is not trying to quietly settle the public narrative after this ruling. Second, her team wants people to understand that the final battle has not happened yet. Pitt may have gained access to more testimony, but Jolie still believes the core case can be beaten in court. So, this is why the Miraval fight has lasted so long. It's not just about a bottle of wine or a celebrity property. It's about control. It's about reputation. It's about who had the right to decide the future of a business that they both once shared. And because this is Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, every legal movement becomes a headline. From a public relations standpoint, this latest development gives Pitt a stronger headline. Court orders witnesses to testify sounds powerful. It makes it look like the case is moving in his direction. And to some degree, it is. When a court grants a motion to compel depositions, it means the judge has accepted that the requested testimony could be relevant enough to pursue. That gives Pitt's team more tools before trial. But Jolie's team is also making a strategic point. They're reminding the public that procedure and victory are not the same thing. A court can allow questioning without deciding Jolie violated any agreement. A judge can permit depositions without saying Pitt's version of the story is correct. That's why Jolie's side is trying to reduce the emotional impact of the ruling. They want this seen as legal process, not legal defeat. That gap between perception and proof is the whole story. The next phase is important because depositions can change the direction of a case. If Pitt's team uncovers testimony that supports his version of events, his position could become stronger. If the testimony doesn't deliver what his team expects, then the legal boost may not translate into a trial advantage. That's the risk of discovery. It opens doors, but it doesn't guarantee what's behind them. There's also a larger business question here. Château Miraval is not just a private estate, it's a valuable brand connected to luxury wine, celebrity ownership, and international business interests. Pitt has long been associated with the winery's image and success. Jolie's sale brought in a new outside player, and that changed the power dynamic around the brand. For Pitt, the issue appears to be that the business he helped build was suddenly connected to a partner he didn't choose to work with. For Jolie, the question is whether she had the legal right to sell her interest and move on. That phrase, move on, is key. Jolie's side has repeatedly framed this fight as something that keeps the family tied to old wounds. Pitt's side frames it as a fight to protect a business and enforce an agreement. Both narratives are powerful because they speak to different audiences. One side sounds like a person trying to escape a toxic legal cycle. The other sounds like a person trying to stop a business partner from breaking a promise. So where does this leave the case right now? Pitt has momentum, but not a final win. Jolie is under pressure, but not legally defeated. The court has opened the door for more testimony, but the core dispute remains unresolved. Did Jolie violate an agreement when she sold her stake? Did Pitt have the legal protection he says he had? Was the sale a legitimate business decision, or did it cross a line? Those are the questions trial will have to answer. For viewers, the biggest mistake would be to treat this as the end of the winery war. It's not. This is a major chapter, but it is still a chapter. Pitt's legal team now has a stronger path to question key figures connected to the sale. Jolie's legal team is already preparing to argue that none of this changes the heart of the case. And that's the real reason this story keeps dominating Hollywood headlines. It combines celebrity, money, divorce, luxury property, and legal revenge into one ongoing battle. Brad Pitt just won a meaningful legal boost. Angelina Jolie immediately answered with a promise to keep fighting. And unless something changes before trial, this is not calming down. The winery war is entering a more serious phase, where public statements matter less and sworn testimony could matter more. For now, the cleanest way to describe it is this. Brad Pitt has won another round in the legal process, but Angelina Jolie is refusing to let that round define the war. The case is still alive, the trial is still ahead, and Château Miraval remains one of the most bitter and expensive symbols of their Hollywood split.